This paper is a collaboration of a number of NGOs that I work with, the Carbon Tracker Initiative, Series, WRI, Unit FI, we've drawn on the AADP, CDP, probably everyone else in the room. So to some extent, I'm hoping you're going to tell us lots more, and we're going to be adding stuff to this when we go live. This is not an academic paper, this is more like a survey. It's far too large, we're just going to publish it in early October. But we thought we'd present it here to show you some of the more sort of practical things that are going on out there or not. Just one thing on carbon asset risk. This comes from this WRI document. You can find it on their website. It's a framework for carbon asset risk. But I want to make this point we thought came across very strongly to us when we were doing it. Distinguish between operator risk and financial risk carried in portfolios. The operators are who you invest in if you have a portfolio. At the moment, the current state of the debate is to make the operators manage the risk. Very few institutions that we're going to show are actually managing their own portfolio risk in reality. Most of them are going back to the operators through investment or whatever, or divesting them anyway, and saying, operators, what are you doing? We're really focusing on you. That's where the disclosure and so on will come to later. So I found that quite a useful distinction to have in the back of my mind. Right, so this was the actual framework of this document. The 4 risk factors, policy and legal, that's what people talk about. I'm with Howard. Technology is going to be the killer app here at some point. And we, particularly as you're going to see, focus on market and economic factors, and then you've got reputational factors for the banks in particular. You might be an originator and you might say, my balance sheet turns over every 2 years, I don't really care, that's what they say to us. And we say to them, watch out, you're carrying the reputational risk of the underwriting. And then you run that through this whole exposure issue, you know, sort of who's got, how you measure the risk at the asset level through to the operators. You screen for that. You then stress test it, the IEA comes in and stress test against the IEA assumptions, commodity assumptions, and then you go on to either avoid the risk or manage it and so on. So that's a fairly obvious framework. And all I'm going to say here is you end up with disclosure, diversification, engagement and divestment. We think that's roughly what you can do at the end of all this, and you can do it in terms of new investments and current holdings and so on. So what I wanted to do is to focus on something that might surprise you. I want to focus on markets, you know, being an old market economist, strategist, commodity guy, ran research departments in Australia and America, etc. I'm actually going to say to you, who's really taking this seriously at the moment? These guys out here, the markets are taking this seriously. Now the question you're going to say to me is the cyclical or structural. Hold that, let me go through this first. The US coal crash. We wrote a paper at Carbon Tracker on this. Basically, I forget how many months ago. We basically said it's the US coal demand's falling, the EPA is instituting regulations, gas fracking is new technology, renewables are new technology, share prices are collapsing, and good old Rio, this was a few months ago, said coal prices won't recover for a very long time. That might be in their lifetime by now. So and we actually, plotted that out, and you could see what's going on. Simple point: U.S. coal companies underperformed and this was a while ago, it'd be worse now, underperformed the S&P by 80%. We actually said to investors, we said, you keep on saying to us, when is this going to show up? We said, did you miss this one? Right? So, and US coal is really, we think, the lead indicator. Now, we had no idea what was about to happen in oil markets other than we constructed the argument that did happen in a way. But before I leave coal, one of our key conclusions was that Japanese coal demand is peaking. About a year ago, we said it would peak in 2016. One of the world's largest coal companies, said to us it's between 2025 and 2030. I don't think their share price is looking too good this morning. And essentially, we're pretty sure this is happening. Is this cyclical? Are we talking about this is like showing stock markets as I watched today, Dow down another 100. Is this China factor cyclical or structural? I think it's a lot more structural than people think. We're going through a transition. The Chinese growth rate from 7, 8, I think it's gone down to 4, 5. They're going to get normalised out like we always do. And essentially, a part of that also is they're pushing very hard to reduce their carbon exposures. All that means one big change for these markets. So, oil. We actually said our thesis on oil over 18 months ago was demand will surprise on the downside, and it's Chinese electric vehicle market. If you want to focus on any market in the world that will disrupt the global commodity markets, the Chinese EV market totally dominates global oil forecasts as you go out 20 years. And by the way, the province told me to tell you that is drilling, they're putting down the renewable heating. So that's if the noise upsets you, he said it's correct, renewable heating. Chinese demand weak. We actually said Saudis are going to go for market share. I'm going to tell you, I wish I'd placed the hedge fund bet on this one. $100 a barrel, we were in there saying they're going to do it. And, they're going for market share. Shale oil is marginal, but it's not really shale. At the end of the day, this is about oil sands and deep water. That's where the big production is. And therefore, I would say to the, is there anything to do with climate change in this? Well, according to the Saudi oil minister, we won't be needing fossil fuels by 2050. So maybe he thinks there's something going on. Do I think that's probably trying to kill the Iranians? Maybe, but I think there's something going on out there. So Chinese coal demand, coal's disappointing, oil supplies accelerating into what might be a constrained output. These markets are seriously doing what we wanted them to do. If I'd have gone in and said to any investor 18 months, a year ago, well, guess what? We'd like the markets to test a $40 barrel oil, a $50 ton coal. They'd look at me like I was a lunatic, right? That's what's happening. Now, how fast will this recover? This was a forecast earlier in the year. These forecasts are flattening out heavily. People are really concerned in commodity markets that will not be rallied very quickly. My own view is you're going to have a rally. Why? Because you won't actually get enough supply even for 2-degree world at these prices. So you've got to be careful. This is a cyclical industry. But I think these markets are making really quite some statements. European utility gas spiral is picking up another market. Essentially, European utilities under great stress, renewables, merit order curve, marginal cost zero for renewables. These guys are in big trouble. And I know Oxford has written some good papers on utilities. So once again, we're seeing, the two key carbon-intensive sectors, fossil fuels and utilities, under a lot of stress right now, and it's not just cyclical, it's definitely structural factors. So then, my good friends at Wood Mackenzie, who we buy our data from, they just said $200 billion of work projects deferred. Not bad. Now, if I look back at 2 years at Carbon Tracker, we were trying to think up a metric to impress our funders. Could we delay $100 billion worth of coal oil projects? And I said, don't use that number. Well, not bad. So, Wood Mac just came out and said they think there's a $1.5 trillion worth of capex, which is now unneeded over $50 a barrel. We used the number 1 trillion in our first oil bill. So, this is really beginning to impact, and we're seeing actual activity. Now, I believe that the companies are actually, they sort of hate us, but they're really listening now. So we've only got one oil major to come out publicly on the 2D analysis, but we're going to get another one. PHP's coming. And I think Statoil's moving, but we're getting further. We've got the 6 oil majors calling the global carbon pricing. Well, of course, we're all cynical on that because that's the coal to gas switch. But I provide cynical, but they're calling for a global carbon price. We've had oil majors deciding to leave various industry associations. We've had some Arctic drilling. We're not quite sure what's in the mind of Shell. They've always got a different cost curve than us, because we can't even see the first barrel of Arctic oil coming below $150 a barrel break even. So they obviously think something's going on we can't spot. 2 oil majors are investing in renewable energy, Total and Statoil. I think this is going to gather pace. we're going to see more and more and more of this. They are responding. So don't think that we think they're doing, the best job in the world, and Shannon will tell you about that, but they are getting somewhere. Now, I think I'm going to be able to add a whole number of extra points to this over the next few weeks as we gather more information. What I didn't have on here is one of our key ideas was that companies would reduce capex and increase dividends. Well, in the middle of this crisis, we are seeing all the major fossil fuel companies saying, apart from Glencore, outlier, saying we will maintain our dividends, cut our capex. So again, we see them following the sort of results we really want to see. Analysts, plenty of sell-side analysts, plenty of market think tanks, buy-side rating agencies. We're seeing a lot of discussion in markets. So, I will now hand over to Shannon to talk about investors and what they're into.
Thank you, Mark. So I'm going to bring us back a little bit to the title and the framing of this paper. It's Carbon Asset Risk, Moving from Rhetoric to Action. And as Mark pointed out, there are some companies who are making some changes, and ConocoPhillips is one of them, saying that they're now testing their portfolios with 4 scenarios, 3 of which actually tie to meeting the 2-degree target that's globally agreed upon. But there is a real difference between adopting good rhetoric and actually deploying good action. And I think we've all seen a very good example of that earlier this week around cars and air emissions. It's certainly something where the investor voice is critical to put pressure on companies, but it's also critical to have regulators be putting pressure on companies to ensure that they're not just talking a good thing, but that they're actually taking steps that will change their capital expenditure planning and their business models in the long run. Really great to see Howard's charts right before we got up here, because he showed the forecast that BP has for their 2035 outlook. And what's really important when we're talking about moving from rhetoric to action is to recognize that the companies who are depending on those forecasts that they've done internally to support the capital expenditure plans that they're making aren't just relying on the luck of the draw to make sure that those forecasts are what end up being reality. So they are lobbying, they're working with groups like ALEC, they are going directly to regulators, they're going directly to legislators, they're going to the people who are involved in the climate talks, and they are trying to ensure that their forecast is the one that will win out rather than the ones that Howard showed. And that's where investor pressure and regulator pressure comes in. So back in 2013, 2 years ago now, 75 investors wrote letters to 45 of the largest fossil fuel companies in the world, electric utilities, coal mining companies, oil and gas companies. And what we saw was that we got a lot of good responses, a lot of good rhetoric saying we support climate action, we support modeling some level of a 2-degree scenario, although companies like Exxon and Chevron said 2 degrees is simply not feasible, it's never going to happen, we're not going to model it because it would be misleading to investors. And so what we saw was we did get some key information related to screening costs, the internal carbon costs, but not enough detail, and none of the companies were doing public analysis of the 2-degree scenario. That is, saying what a 2-degree scenario would mean in terms of whether their resources and reserves would end up being viable under that scenario. The EU companies, Shell, BP, and Statoil this past year, actually supported climate change resolutions. So again, very good rhetoric saying, yes, we will support climate resolutions, we will get out there and we will make things happen. Meanwhile, Shell, after supporting that, or actually on the same day that they announced supporting that resolution, announced they would move forward with drilling in the Arctic. A couple of big pieces that we're really looking at, focusing on this year with our investors who go in and meet with the companies, are related to getting these 2-degree scenario analysis done and publicly released, and we expect to see BHP Billiton do that next week when they're visiting the US, so we're excited to see what we'll get out of that. But we're also looking at executive comp. as you know, the executives are paid to grow their reserves and to grow production. And so a few of the resolutions that are proposed this year will try to break that link between executive compensation and reserve. And I should speed up here. I'm never going to make it through. Just a little bit of a survey of what has happened in the U.S. Over 25 carbon asset risk resolutions have been filed since 2013. Those are resolutions asking the companies to report on whether they could be vulnerable to carbon asset risk. 5 of those were withdrawn in exchange for commitments, so we got additional disclosures, but none of those passed, in part because the larger investment world is not so sure about whether stranded assets or wasted capital is a real issue. There was a lot of action on proxy access, which relates to governance and being able to nominate board members. So 33 resolutions filed with oil and gas companies, and 23 of those received over 50%. As I mentioned, you've got the Amy Bray resolutions that were supported by Shell, BP, and Statoil that require additional reporting. And we should all be taking a look at the French law that was passed that requires disclosures on carbon asset risk. That is a key piece of regulation that I'm hoping a lot of other countries will be following because it will help to move us forward. This is a great report that was done by Carbon Tracker. It took a look at the 2014 reports to CDP from the major oil and gas and coal companies, and it just gives you a sense of how many are actually disclosing and what they're disclosing. Only 49 oil and gas companies were disclosing and 32 coal companies. We're hoping to see those numbers go up. CDP had a new set of questionnaires that they issued this year that's specific to oil and gas. Further steps. Disclosures are great, but we need to get the full picture. Most of the responses to the initial carbon asset risk letters said, you're talking about reserves. Reserves only last for 10 to 12 years. None of our reserves are going to be stranded. We said, we're not only talking about reserves, we're talking about reserves and resources. And so when we're engaging with companies right now, what we're asking them to do is to test their reserves and resources to that 2-degree scenario. We also need to align incentives. I talked about that a little bit on the executive comp. And we also need, this is vital, more transparency from companies on lobbying. Because if they're telling us one thing, but they're lobbying to get a future that is not consistent with the 2-degree scenario, then we're not going to see the changes that we would like. One of the options, aside from investor engagement, is also divestment. And this is just a nice model that was put together by the Smith School. Thank you very much, guys. Talking about kind of the process of stigmatization that comes along with divestment. Certainly, divestment has had a lot of success, especially in the last year and a half. They've got 392 institutions who have said that they're going to divest. You do have to think about that in terms of what the threshold is for divestment, what types of divestment, and you also have to think about it in terms of how much pension funds and institutional investors like this own. Probably only about 40% or so in equities, a much smaller percentage of that in oil and gas. They've said that they have about $2.6 trillion in assets under management that's included in this list, but it's probably a much smaller number when you consider that the threshold for much of this divestment is whether a company gets 30% or more of their revenues from coal. In other cases, it's whether they get 50% or more of their revenue from coal. So it's primarily coal that's been divested from. In part, that goes along with the fact that the markets have been so bad for coal. But you do have companies like Peabody recognizing in their 10Ks, their SEC filings and disclosures, that they are concerned about the potential impact from divestment. They've now added that into the many risks that they face that include the regulation of coal and unfavorable lending policies by governments that are backing renewable energy. So they have recognized that divestment does pose a real threat to them.
2 minutes.
Sure. Another way for investors to get engaged is to go to fossil-free indexes. They're definitely emerging, and there are a lot. You see the MSCI fossil fuel indexes, fossil-free indexes here, and they've been doing very well. They've especially been doing very well compared to the oil sector recently. But it's important to keep in mind that this is a snapshot in time that we're getting. We are likely to see prices go back up. So investors have to think very carefully about how to weight their investments in fossil fuel indexes. And investors still have to work on their own portfolios. Julian's up there somewhere with the Asset Owner Disclosure Project. Not only do they need to be testing and analyzing their own portfolios for how much carbon risk they have in them as a result of holding fossil fuel assets, but they also need to be looking at them more broadly in terms of the risks that we face from a warming climate and the impacts that that'll have on other industries. And more importantly, we also want to see investors starting to invest in the solution, in green bonds, in clean energy. And as you can see, we still have quite a ways to go in terms of asset owners who are setting intensity reduction targets over 2% thus far. Service providers, and then I'll be done. There are definitely a lot of folks who are working in this area. CDP on the disclosure series and CPI and others on disclosure. Portfolio footprinting, there's some great books out there, South Pole, True Cost, MSCI, and others. And I think there has been a lot of uptake, I'll just say. Mercer put out a report that's gotten over 3,000 hits already. CTI's website, where they've been putting out a lot of information on this and a lot of studies, over almost 350,000 views. So people are starting to take this message up, but there needs to be much more penetration in order for it to really have an impact.